It was bound to happen. AI is 100% taking over every single aspect of business and functionality. And that's why I was really, really excited to discover an entrepreneur who is tackling a niche in business that many of you are probably struggling with. And we're going to get into it in a little bit. We're going to find out from this entrepreneur why he picked this niche. And I'll tell you, sometimes it's important to be first when you launch a new niche. And I was part of this many years ago when I was in satellite technology. The company I was in, we were second. And it made all the difference because the number one company ended up crushing us. So it is very important to be first. And I believe this company is first. And to back that up, this company has gotten funding. So they also believe it's important to be first. And they think James Zahn from Ranger has got it. Welcome in, James. How you doing, my friend?
Hello, Tony. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh man, it's great to see you. I can't wait to dig into this because there's just people that just may not quite understand, the complexities here that we're going to be talking about today. And we're talking about the industrial process by which I called it an RFP, but you said, hey, we shouldn't call it an RFP. It's you gave it a different terminology. You called it a
Yeah,
what?
it's the industrial tendering process where you are asking to bid on projects and making magic happen through that type of iterative process of selecting the best vendor for you.
So as we started unfolding this, as I began to learn a little bit more about it, I thought, what is it that attracted you to this space? It is such a niche, James. Why? I gotta say, I'm kind of fascinated. Why did you go after this particular one?
Um, Before tech, I was actually an industrial bid engineer. I worked for a very famous German engineering company called GEA Tuchenhagen. And my very first project, believe it or not, was working on a Budweiser plant. I thought it was the job of my dream. Making beer in an industrial scale and having the ability to share that with my friends and told that, hey, we made this. But the reality of my job was actually stuck between hundreds and hundreds of pages of dense packages of engineering specifications, legal and compliance clauses, commercial terms, procurement terms, subcontractor specs, all condensed in this industrial proposal and tendering doc. And that's when I realized there must be a better way to do this. I shouldn't be spending 2 to 3 months on just figuring out what are the requirements, tracking down what are the answers, what are the projects I've done in the past is similar, and ultimately doing all these work, try to win a multi-million-dollar project.
Wait, so that it sounds like that could take months. And honestly, you must have incredible attention to detail. I mean, just hearing that it could take 2 to 3 months, I think that would really just automatically relegate this very technical process to a very small niche group of people within an organization. And I have to imagine, as engineers and the very technical people who are responsible for ensuring that the bid is correct, that the tendering process is correct, you have another job. Like you have your actual job that you're trying to do.
That's correct.
Um, so you had this idea. I'm just curious, how did you, from an AI and technology point of view, how did you begin to tackle it? I want to set the platform to the side for a second because we've heard a lot about AI solutions. We've been podcasting about it now for months. So I'm just kind of curious, you as a coming, working in this space, how did you begin? Just I'm kind of curious, like how did you start this up?
Yeah, this is actually not my first iteration. My first iteration on this is a company called Engineade. It's like Gatorade, aiding the Florida Gators. Engineade, aiding engineers.
Engine aid.
Yes, and the concept behind it is, for me to start working on these bid documents, the best way for me is to find a past project that are similar enough as a starting point. So my first iteration was using a recommendation engine, port through all the documentations, all the specs in the past, and when a new project comes in, I essentially pull something that's similar enough for me to start on it. Um, Now, let's fast forward about a decade and a half later. We're now living in the world of agentic AI with large language models that has the capabilities of breaking down these text based information in a much greater detail and much better standards. So, the Ranger iteration for it is a really different approach. To complete a typical proposal or industrial tender form, it's not just one person. You require actually a team of specialized individuals. You will have representative from the legal team, the commercial team, the procurement team, the engineers, and so forth. All together has to review their various domain subject expertise in order to provide that. Now, we also know these days you can create agentic AI that's very specialized in a set of tasks. And our thesis is that by leveraging a team of agentic AIs, it will be able to help, the actual engineers or the lawyers or whomever in the team to create your first draft of scope analysis, risk assessment, and overall comprehensive detail about recommendation much faster than that of a human can do. And then they can focus on more of the detail part of their work. So, in the way I say it, Ranger AI helps the team to understand, can we do this project, while the human focus on should we do it.
So we've actually had episodes about agentic AI, and I'm really glad that you just naturally, brought that into the conversation. So for those who may not understand completely what agentic AI is, it's like having a digital worker like in your functional area. And I know you can explain this in a much more detailed way, but I'm the common guy that can kind of break it down so everyone kind of just understands. So you may have a function that you do, and over time you can program your agent,
Mhm.
right, to understand. It's like advanced prompts. I mean, I know that's a simplistic way to put it, but it learns very specifically your job. And then if you have multiple people in this process, then I would imagine you've got an agentic uh, worker, digital worker over every function. Now, are you guys helping install or even including a single, agentic manager over all the digital managers? Is that kind of built into the process? And maybe you could flesh
That's
that out a little
definitely
bit
the
more.
goal. Yeah, that's definitely the goal here. And I love your definition. The way we think about in the engineering space is that they're really specialized, task-driven AI assistant designed to act as the domain experts. We think of them as, to your point, virtual teammates who are trained to handle a specific part of the workflow. However, instead of giving you a generic answer, like you can Google something, it tells you an answer. Agentic AIs are more context aware, so they know the project, the documents, the business logic. They're goal oriented, which means that they are built to do something, not just to say something. And they're collaborative. In a way, they can both interact with human and other agents. So an example of Ranger is that, let's say we have a legal agent, and its role is to read through all the contracts in this tendering package and flag all the issues, red lines, and compliance related problems that's different than what we're used to accepting. And the engineering agent will then compare all the technical specs in these proposal docs to internal standard and identify feasibility gaps and risks. An example of this is that if you don't define the risks upfront and you say yes to taking this project, often you have the scope creep and that will eat into your margin, which inadvertently hurts your profitability in the long run. These are just examples that the agent will also collaborate and talk to each other. And the manager layer, to your point, is really there to allow me or anyone working using Range AI to have a much easier way of collaborating with one entity to get the goal they're looking for.
Wow. Um, you have really brought to life, at least in vision. I know you said it's your goal, so I don't know exactly how far along this path you are, but this is really my dream. Really, is to have this really across business functions. I
Mhm.
mean, you talked about the technical specifications. We have a saying in sales. Sales will just sell it, and then the guys in the back have to figure out how to make it happen. Well, you can end up in a major problem particularly if the sales is not technical enough to understand the scope and the ability of the team to create what it is that's being asked of them. So to have engineering kind of build in its standards and then to quickly flag, okay, they're asking us to create something that's, whatever percentage,
Hmm.
above or below a standard that we're comfortable with for example, safety,
Hmm.
right? Because maybe they're going for something they want really light, but your expertise says we need this thickness for safety. So it would instantly flag that. And then the agent then could go talk to the safety department, and then I could see where this just creates a complete, model for collaboration about the issues that actually matter.
That's correct. And in I always like to use a more localized example outside of the engineering space. Is that like my wife and I, when we go on a shopping trip, she will send me a
Oh,
list.
good Lord.
You know how that is, right? She will send me this massive set of grocery lists for me to buy. And the question I always have is like, have you checked the fridge? You know? And then like, do we really need all of this stuff? And the way she puts it, she's happy if I get 90% of the stuff. Now, let's imagine there is an agent involved. The agent will take a look at that list and will check if there's stock in the fridge. And then it will look at this list versus the last time your wife sent you the list and tell you, are there more or less? And are there things you can get away with? And for
Okay,
me,
I need this. James, listen, we got a side business. We got a side hustle right here. Every working dude in the world is going to want this. That's
oh, for
great.
sure. And that's the beauty of it. As long as there are past examples, templates, and standardizations
Yeah.
in which you can triangulate to, and that's text based, then it's a great way for AI to help you with your work. Now, when it's more creative approach, let's say the downstream asset actually designing the AutoCAD or SolidWorks drawings of these industrial plants or the process engineering, then AI will run into their limitations. As you know, I think the biggest issue that we're faced with, some of the companies don't have enough past data or enough in the sense that AI can train itself on to be good at the job. But when it comes to these type of proposals, tendering docs, bid docs, product catalog, usually there is a good template for us to really leverage off, similar to that grocery shopping list.
Yeah, well, and I think you've just I appreciate you explaining, and particularly for the listeners who are involved in these very industrial tenders, that yeah, you do have to have that template that it can kind of build, its internal database that it has something to reference, right? It can't create something out of thin air. It has to come from the data that you have, and that obviously then brings you back to, a data set. So I imagine as you get started with this with a new client, right? It's very important that you understand data. The data is clean. You probably have some kind of an API that's connecting to wherever they keep their technical documents, so you can get it uploaded. So I'm curious, um, as in a startup, your money is precious, time is precious, so you identify low, easy opportunities. Let's say, which industries right now are most receptive or yeah, to this offering right now?
So we have four verticals that we're really focused on. First one is energy. So this is your oil and gas, pump and valves, piping, these type of engineering. The second one is process engineering. These are very similar in the energies vertical, but they do actual designing of the process diagram in the engineering side of the work. Third one is civil. So civil engineering, you can imagine like whether it's construction or building. And the fourth one is pharmaceutical engineering.
So that third one, civil, are you going after specifically private or government?
Uh, Private. Yes.
Okay.
What we have noticed is, the reality of it, you have a couple major, let's call them stakeholders in the buying process. What we have found, at least, just through all of our go-to-market approach, is that there is a very much a need on the executive team to start leveraging AI and transform how they operate. This is a shift similar to how the cloud shift happens and the digitization of documents happen. And then is the actual team members themselves, like the engineers, the procurement officers, the legal, counsels internally. For them, they show up every single day to work, expecting to read through hundreds of pages of detailed doc, highlighting it, and missing one thing sometimes could be catastrophic. To have an assistant able to extract the information, validate, and really help with you, it's a huge amount of relief for them, and it makes their job so much easier. We have seen now Ranger and the capability has been used not just in the tender preparing or the proposal phase, but also in the execution phase. Let's say you're building this engine and you require a specific set of wattages or specific set of electrical wiring, and you're not going to remember all the details. Well, one way is that you go and print out all your detailed specs, highlighting them and try to figure out where they are, which is what they used to do, or you use Control F. We've seen how that does.
Oh
Now,
God, love Control F.
yeah, you can just use Ranger and ask, hey, what are the wiring requirements for my engine on plan A is? Because the AI is context aware, it understands the project, understand what you're trying to do. They will be able to extract and give you a very clear answer on the specification to that level of a technician would give you.
As a sales guy, sales and marketing guy, when I hear of a solution like this, I can't help but go to the sales aspect of it.
Mhm,
And the way I look at this is if it takes an organization, in some cases months,
mhm.
to thoroughly evaluate a project and then upload the tender, this is a huge time constraint on the organization. Now, if you look at the manufacturing capabilities of a plant,
Yep,
how many plants are actually running at 100% capacity?
that's a great that's a really good point. The way
You see
we
where I'm going with this?
yeah, the way we see it is we call it, from a sales perspective, the revenue funnel. You have the leads that are coming in. These are tendering proposals, requests for information, requests for technical, just to understand, hey, can you help serve my business? And then there's the white collar job. These are your, the engineers that's in the office, the commercial team members, the sales team members, the sales engineers, application engineers, the legal. Their goal is to parse through all these funnels that's coming in and try to make sure they win as many deals as possible. Then you have the actual plant, the blue collar jobs. To your point, they're not always 100%, on efficiency. And more importantly, it's much easier to scale your blue collar side of things if you know the deals that's coming in. So that's where Ranger is. What we think is a very special place is to help this white collar sector, help expand it, contract it, and prioritize in a way where you can maximize your output for your actual manufacturing side of your plant.
Yes. That's the very first thing that popped in my mind was because we are in Timpl is involved in industrial staffing. And we work all across uh, automotive, solar, EV. We have other industries that we work in. And very often it's a matter of opening another line,
Mhm.
or, they have two shifts and they can just go to three shifts and they can increase productivity. There's not a lot of plants. I don't want to categorize how many there are, but to find a plant that works 24/7, 365 and that has no downtime is very hard to find. That's the goal, all
Correct.
right? If you can create a workforce that does that, but you end up with if you were to be creating and producing that much product, you've got to have a place for it. And if you're in specialized manufacturing, you have to have a sales funnel,
That's correct.
right? So you could be producing at 100% capacity, but to what end? Where's the customer? Who needs to buy this specialized product? You can't invest that kind of extra capital into something that you don't know. Now, if you're making a commodity, for example, solar panels,
Mhm.
that's different because you've got two or three different commoditized, right? So you just crank them out and
Yep.
you keep them in storage.
Yep.
Very different from what you're talking about. So
Yep.
this is why I wanted to talk to you. I really felt like I wanted to get you on the platform. I wanted people to learn a little bit more about what you were doing. And I think it's kind of fun for you too, man. You could be first.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely in a special place that everyone we talk to understand the pain point. This is my second iteration at it, so it's great to see that the pain is still there. It's just as difficult to do this, but there hasn't been a good enough solution, and we're really helping them to make this happen. And I like the name Ranger way more than Engine Aid, and I think it really helps us to understand a lot of the industrial in the Midwest, in the U.S., in the Middle East, and it's globalized in a way where there is a ton of projects, especially on the tendering form. It's multi subcontracting. You can't just build the whole, like to take your solar, for example. We have a pilot what they specialize in. They build solar stations in oil and gas field to help reduce the carbon emission. And they actually have other subcontracts that builds the panels, that actually builds other aspect of their entire project. So increasingly, we're seeing the supply chain and how things flow down at the very top, even in this tendering stage, in this proposal stage, in this bid stage. You're really trying to figure out the scope of work involved with everyone and minimizing the risk.
That's exciting. Well, what's the best way for people to kind of connect with you? I mean, a lot of times people have demos. I don't know, is there like even a demo process? Like how do people kind of get into this and to figure out if this is the right thing for them?
And you can easily reach us out on our LinkedIn, on our website, or just email me, James at rangerrfx.com. Yes, we do have a demo, but we do have very clear qualification steps. We want to make sure we're solving the right problem for the right people. AI can do a lot of things, but what we are hyper focused on are these large scale industrial tenders, and really to help us change the way we operate to build a better tomorrow.
I love it. A better tomorrow. Well, look, I've changed my tagline a million times for Jobtopia, but right now I'm rocking the future is fascinating.
Nice.
It
I love
just is. There's so many great companies out there, and yourself included, with these, just inspiring ideas. James, I'm so glad you had some time to come down today and kind of share this new niche with everyone. I think it's very relevant, particularly for our marketplace, with all the complex businesses that we work with. I hope everyone enjoyed getting to meet James and all that he's doing over at Ranger and his team. James, great. It's great to see you again today, my friend.
Likewise, Tony, and thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. We'll see you again soon.
Bye bye.